Well, I appreciate all the gentleman's comments and certainly his correct recitation about what the real impact of Obamacare is across the country, particularly to hardworking men and women. And the gentleman's right. These descriptive phrases like nightmare, another one is train wreck. They're not his words, they're not my words. They're actually words from supporters of the law. Nightmare, as the gentleman pointed out, comes from the leader of the Teamsters, very powerful organization on the Democratic side politically that strongly supported the law. The chairman of the Senate Finance Committee that helped write the law called Obamacare implementation a train wreck just a few months ago. Not coincidentally, that was right before he announced he wasn't running for re-election. So I appreciate that notation of those descriptions from folks on the Democratic side of the aisle, from folks who helped pass Obamacare. This is clear proof that this is just not ready for prime time, is causing real pain and dislocation to hardworking Americans, job loss, folks being moved into part-time work, jobs not being created, folks losing the health care they have now, which they enjoy. But did the gentleman know, I think that leader of the Teamsters, James Hoffa, is even more upset today than he was when he wrote that letter, because in the intervening time, something else has happened, which is that the administration bailed out Congress with a special exemption, with a special subsidy, with a special rule, hasn't helped working class Americans that Mr. Hoffa represents through the Teamsters, but has bailed out Congress. And that's what I have an amendment on the CR about. It will be a germane amendment. I'll present it. Unfortunately, it seems clear that the plan is for the majority leader to block out all amendments, including mine, except the ones he chooses that would take out the defunding language from the House-passed bill. But again, what I'm talking about is a special bailout exemption subsidy for Congress. This goes back to the original Obamacare debate, and our distinguished colleague, Senator Grassley of Iowa, proposed language which so many of us strongly supported, that said every member of Congress, all congressional staff, would have to go to the same fallback plan under Obamacare as there is for all Americans. First, it was called the public option, then eventually the exchange. And amazingly, happily, I was pleasantly surprised at the time that language got in the bill and was passed into law. Well, that became a classic case of what Nancy Pelosi said. We had to pass the bill to figure out what was in it. Because after that language got in the bill and passed into law, then lots of folks around Capitol Hill read that provision, and they said, oh, you know what? They said, wait a minute, we can't live with this. We can't deal with this because we're going to be in the same fallback plan as there is for every other American with no special treatment. We can't deal with that. And then because of that, furious lobbying started on the Obama administration, folks like the distinguished majority leader talking directly to President Obama himself, saying, we need a bailout, we need a special fix, a special rule just for us. And sure enough, that lobbying yielded results. And by many, many press reports, President Obama got personally involved to ensure that a special rule was issued by his administration. The draft version of it was issued just conveniently after Congress left town for the August recess and got away from the scene of the crime. And that draft rule is completely improper, completely illegal, because it goes beyond the statute and is inconsistent with the statute, but it's a special exemption for Congress. It really does two things, essentially. First, even though Obamacare, the statute, explicitly says that every member of Congress, all congressional official staff, have to go to the exchange, the rule basically negates that in a way and says, well, we don't know what official staff means, so we're going to leave it up to each individual member to decide what of their staff is official and what is not, who has to go to the exchange, who doesn't. Statute doesn't say that. Statute's very clear. All congressional official staff have to go to the exchange. There is no discretion to individual members. And then the second thing this special rule, the special exemption does is even more egregious. It says, oh, and by the way, whoever does go to the exchange, members and whatever congressional staff do go to the exchange, they get a huge taxpayer-funded subsidy that follows them there. Now, that's not in the statute. That's nowhere in Obamacare. That's nowhere in that Grassley provision as passed into law. And in fact, there are other sections of Obamacare that make it crystal clear that employees who go to the exchange lose their previous subsidy from their large employer that they may have enjoyed previously. That's clear in the law, completely inconsistent with this illegal rule made up out of thin air. So Washington is getting a special exemption, a special bailout, a special subsidy completely unavailable to other Americans. Now, that's just not right. And that's why I have an amendment. I tried to present it last week, was blocked out by the majority leader. I'm here again on the CR. It's important, it's necessary, we vote, and we should before October 1st, when this illegal rule will otherwise go into effect. And my amendment is simple. It negates that illegal rule. It says, yes, every member of Congress, all congressional staff, and, oh, by the way, other Washington policymakers, the president, the vice president, all of their political appointees have to go to the exchange with no special treatment, no special exemption, no special subsidy unavailable to other Americans. So if you are a lower paid staff member and you qualify by your income for a subsidy available to every other American who goes to the exchange at that income level, fine. That's certainly available. That's equal treatment. That's Washington being treated like the rest of America. But no special exemption or bailout or subsidy. Only those available to all other Americans going to the exchange. So we need a vote on this provision. It's directly relevant to the CR. It's directly relevant to this debate. And this illegal Obama administration rule will go into effect October 1st unless we act. That's why I demanded a timely vote last week. Unfortunately, was blocked out by the majority leader. He claimed after threatening and bullying didn't work, he claimed he had no objection to the vote, but still he didn't let it happen. Well, here we are in the CR debate, and that's why we need that debate and that vote now. But the problem is it's clear that the majority leader's plan, and it's clear that this upcoming cloture vote would block all that out again. The majority leader would get his select amendments to take out of the House bill the provision that defunds Obamacare, but nobody else would get any other amendment. I wouldn't get a vote on my amendment. There are plenty of other relevant and germane amendments. We wouldn't have votes on that. And that's the plan being laid out for this week, and that's what voting yes on cloture on the bill will enable. And so I can't do that. And I commend the senator from Texas for helping lead this fight, helping point out the dangers and the tragedies of Obamacare, particularly for working men and women, and for also supporting the broader effort to make sure, however America is treated, Washington should be treated exactly the same. You know, that really should be the first rule of democracy. The founders talked about that basic principle. Federalist Papers number 57 by Madison. He specifically talks about this basic principle. Whatever is good for America needs to be good for Washington. Whatever is applied to those who are ruled needs to be applied equally, in full force, and in the same way to those who make up the rules. And that's what this specific part of this debate is all about. So I again thank the senator from Texas for his leadership on this and the general issue. And I would just ask, does he think now that that special exemption has come out since the Hoffa letter, would he guess Mr. Hoffa is more or less upset now that Washington's been protected, but the working Americans that Mr. Hoffa represents are still in the dire straits described in that letter?
Well, I thank the senator from Louisiana for that very good question, and I thank him also for his support of this effort, his vocal support, his support from day one. I thank him for appearing with us last night, appearing with us today, standing together to defund Obamacare, standing together to oppose cloture because it would empower Harry Reid and the Democrats to fund Obamacare on a partisan 51 vote, party line vote.